Before we get started, too, just wanted to, certainly acknowledge the weather that's coming our way. I and my wife and I, we live in Colorado. I work remotely for Q4Launch, but was in the Charleston offices for a couple of years before moving out this way. So just keep my coworkers in your thoughts as we're going through this webinar today and in the next couple of days, as certain as this hurricane is literally hitting home. For us and for the people who I work with really closely, at the Q4Launch offices. I think about 90% of our folks have evacuated up to the upstate of South Carolina or into North Carolina. A few are sticking around, so if you can definitely keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they're sticking around and trying to wait this out and stay protected, within the comfort of their own home. So if you're in Florida, anywhere else on the coast, up in the North Carolina coast, we'll be praying for you as well. Just making, really hoping that this damage and this storm, doesn't do any damage, and that we can, continue on, and our businesses and our lives can be hopefully as affected as little as possible. So that's a little bit of where we are. It's one of the reasons why I'm bringing the webinar today, just with the uncertainty of what's going on over in the Charleston offices, with people kind of scattering and preparing for the weather. But with that in mind, we'll move forward here. We'll talk about the anatomy of a killer email marketing strategy. Again, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to submit those in the chat panel. We'll do that Q&A at the end. And the last part here too is if you have to leave early for any reason, we're going to send out a recording of this webinar like we do for all of our webinars. And so once you get that, it'll be in the next couple days before we email that out. But thanks for being here today, and we'll go ahead and continue on. Before we start answering these questions, I wanted to start with a poll. And so to make this a little bit interactive, we're going to ask a question here. How often are you sending out email campaigns? So that poll should show up on your screen. It should be there now. So take a few seconds. We'll leave this open maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And you can answer that question just so I have a feel for who we're talking to here, how often you all are sending out email campaigns, etc. Generally speaking, we get this question all the time, like what amount of email campaigns is an appropriate amount? And for us, I would say our standard answer is you could send out email campaigns literally every single day, provided you have enough great content to send people. Obviously, getting that content, having, whether it be, enough photos of your property, of all of your properties, if you're managing several, do you have blogs and things to share? A lot of that really is dictated on do you have that content. And so a lot of what we do, we're able to send out frequent emails because we have a lot of content in a lot of different ways. But yeah, our general answer is send emails as often as you can send great content. If you don't have great content, cut it back, because the last thing you want to do is send people bad, low quality email campaigns, and that's just the nature of it. So we'll leave this up for 10 more seconds as votes are coming in. It's interesting. Most of you are sending emails at least monthly. About half of you are sending at least monthly, and half of you are sending less than that. So a pretty diverse group of people on, and I think today's message and topic will really cater to all of you, regardless of kind of what situation you find yourself in from a frequency standpoint. All right, so the poll's closed, and let's just start with this. Why do we email? The number one reason is to stay top of mind. Obviously, and we're gonna look at some of these numbers later in terms of metrics like open rates and click-through rates and traffic and conversion rates. But I would even argue that even if somebody doesn't open your email, but they see your name in their inbox, it's at least accomplishing something, right? That brand is in front of them. So the first part is you just want to stay top of mind. And just by sending email, you're going to stay top of mind with people who are in your database. Whether they open it or not, your name is going to show up in front of them. If they've stayed with you before, that means they're going to be reminded of that vacation, which is an amazing thing you want to have happen. And if they've maybe just converted as a lead in some way, they're going to be reminded of you. And so staying top of mind is certainly what we see to be maybe the number one thing that email marketing accomplishes. As we move beyond that, though, obviously we want people to take those next steps. We want people to get to your website. And we want to get your database to your website as frequently as we can. We're going to talk about, again, those metrics a little bit later on, what numbers you should be expecting in terms of click-through rates and general traffic to your website. One of the big reasons we want your email list to get back to your website as frequently as we can is knowing that the people who make the best next guests are the ones who have already stayed with you, who have already experienced the fantastic, who've already experienced the fantastic service and views and service that you offer. We want those people to come back knowing that they already love you, they want to come back, they know what you offer, and they make for a much better guest. And then, yeah, with those emails, we're going to talk about this too. What are we going to include in those emails? One, we want to share great content. So, a lot of times that is in the form of blog content. So what is going on in your area? Why do people come? And how can we get that message out in front of more and more people? And then two, we want to couple that with being able to provide specials, packages, discounts, obviously depending on the time of the year. We have the holidays coming up soon, so how can we message some of those email campaigns to revolve around, hey, let's buy some, let's push gift certificates, knowing that people are looking for gift ideas around Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all these other places. So what can we do to push things like that as we come up? And that's just one example, certainly, of things that we have coming up for some of our customers. But there's so many different ways to promote that content, promote specials, packages, and discounts through email campaigns. I also want to tackle this. What are some of those misconceptions about email marketing? And the thing that we hear more often than anything else, undoubtedly, is I don't want to send my previous guests or my database more emails because I hate getting emails and I don't want to bother them. And that is a dangerous misconception, because what happens is, or my assumption is, you've probably heard one or two people say to you, why you send me so many emails? Because I already have so many in my inbox. You've had some people unsubscribe from emails, which honestly is going to happen every single time you send an email campaign out. So my advice there is, don't let a couple people unsubscribing paralyze you from sending, knowing that you're going to get a much higher percentage of people back to your website. And don't let your own personal bias get in the way as well. Let the data do the talking. For us, the data is showing that, yeah, you're not going to get everybody to your website every time you send an email campaign out. You're not even going to get everybody to open it. But you're going to get a large percentage to interact with you and to click on links and go to your site. And that's what it's all about. What does the data tell us? And the data tells us, hey, just because you hate email marketing, and I would fall in that category myself. I don't like getting emails all the time. I understand that it's kind of a necessary evil of having a job, and that's how people communicate now. I don't enjoy it, but I see the value because I get to see the data and the numbers and the results that we're seeing from email marketing on a consistent basis. That second misconception there, email marketing's dead medium. Totally disagree. Again, we have all these numbers to back that up. Our customers' open rates and click-through rates are far exceeding what MailChimp shows as the industry average for the travel industry. We see bookings coming through this left and right. We see leads being converted and reconverted left and right. Again, and the data is showing us this. It's not dead. It provides a huge return on investment compared to some of the other places that you're probably spending your marketing dollars. The next one on there, I should only email my guests quarterly. This kind of goes back to that first bullet point. You don't want to send too many emails, but again, if you have great content, sending emails every day is something we'd recommend. Most of you are probably in a situation where sending monthly or bi-monthly emails is probably a good number for you based on the amount of content you have. But quarterly is just not that frequent, and you can definitely do more than that regardless of where you are today. I can guarantee you can send more email out than just quarterly and have great results from it. And then these last two, email marketing doesn't work, we've already kind of touched on. We know it does. We have the numbers, and we're going to share some of those later. And then email marketing is only for news. Not necessarily true. People view it as kind of just a newsletter, you know, what's happening around our business, what's happening around our community. And those are great things to share, but that's not the only purpose. You know, you want to keep featuring, interior shots of your properties. You want to keep featuring great, imagery of your area to get people to react with the emotional side. People have very strong emotional connections to great photography, and so sending that photography on a consistent basis just to get people to remember the stay they had really provides great value. So it doesn't have to be just about news. You want to be able to feature a myriad of things in terms of what you're showing in your email marketing campaigns. Here's some of those numbers, again, to kind of debunk some of those misconceptions. What we see is about a 57-to-1 ROI on email marketing. The reality is, email, it doesn't take a ton of time. You certainly have to spend a couple hours probably to craft a really great email campaign, and you need to have a lot of that content done ahead of time. So all in all, you're going to spend some hours on that. But once you press the send button, the message that you're trying to deliver is going to be in front of your audience instantly. And because of that, there's no better way to drive traffic to your website in any one given day except for email marketing. You can see that graph at the bottom of this page. And that's a typical graph we see. We send an email campaign out on what would that be? That's this March 19th. We sent an email campaign out, and there's a spike in traffic, and that's how it works. We see that sort of big traffic increase, and that traffic increase always turns into conversions and bookings. The next thing here, and why why it's smart to send emails to your database, is that people are spending 28% of their day on email. In an 8-hour workday, we're looking at 2 hours out of every 8-hour workday on average, people are spending on their email. And what better way to disrupt their day while they're answering work emails, doing things they might not want to be doing, but they have to be busy and want to look busy and trying to get things done on email. What better way to interrupt them so they can continue to pretend that they're busy, but send them an email that gives them a great photo of the beach, or a great photo of the mountains, or a great photo of the first snow. Depending on where you are in the country, obviously, you have great photos depending on where you are. And so remind them of that. Take them back to that place. Make them dream of coming back to your place again, which will start this process of them dreaming about a vacation, and then researching a vacation, planning a vacation, and eventually booking another vacation. And so that's why the consistency piece is so important as well. So your brand is showing up in front of their eyeballs on a consistent basis. And again, going back to this idea that your past guests will make the best next guests, i.e. the most qualified guests that you want to bring back, there's no better way to do it than email marketing. And again, that graph at the bottom speaks to that. One quick story on this from an anecdote from one of our customers. We had a customer who had their entire inventory booked for a weekend. It was a weekend retreat. It was I think a Christian group was coming in, but their pastor who was leading it got sick, or somebody in his family got sick, and they had to cancel the entire thing, but they wanted to rebook, for a couple weeks later. And so because this customer of ours wanted to keep their business for later, he's like, okay, we won't charge you any sort of cancellation fee, knowing that you'll be coming back in a couple of weeks. But that left this customer in a really big dilemma, right? I went from 100% occupied to 0% occupied. It's Monday. How am I going to fill these rooms? How am I going to fill this inventory by the end of the week for this Friday and Saturday night? And so this customer called us. We put together this campaign. It included 2 email campaigns that week along with some social media. But by the end of that week, by the time that weekend came, we were able to get them up to 78% occupied, because we were able to offer a deal to past guests to come back, enjoy this property at a different time of the year than we had before, at a significantly discounted rate, knowing that We don't want to discount all the time, but in this case, in an emergency situation, we wanted to get this discount and special out to people who already knew us and liked us and trusted us as quickly as we could. Email helped us do that, and email helped us go from 0 to 78% in a matter of days. And so again, that's just a quick story of how that worked in an extreme circumstance, but that's the same principles that really apply, all year long. Before we start looking at an actual email example, and I'm going to take you through, from top to bottom what we try to accomplish in our emails. I want to get this across as well, is that for everything that we do, for everything that we're going to look at, we've tested, we're going to continue to test, and I urge you to don't just send an email out without testing it. You need to test everything. You need to test subject lines. You need to test images. You need to test different types of content, different buttons, different colors for your buttons. Literally every part of your email campaign you need to be testing. What day of the week you send on, what time of the day you send at. There's so many different things that you can be testing. Partner with an email marketing software if you're going to continue to do this on your own. Use an email marketing software that has a robust testing capability. If we're looking at this from a sheer number standpoint, let's say you have 20,000 people in your database. Again, I know some of you probably only have 1,000, some of you might have 100,000. But let's say you have 20,000 people in your database. Look at the impact of a 0.5% click-through rate difference. That's 100 visits, from 600 to 700 at a 1% conversion. That's a potential of an additional booking. The larger your database gets, maybe the higher the conversion gets potentially. The more people you get to your site, the more people that you have an opportunity to convert. In that booking, obviously what a booking is worth to you. It's going to range anywhere between 500 to 5,000 to 10,000 to maybe a little even lower. But either way, you can put some real dollar amounts to every time you send an email campaign out by just increasing that open rate, increasing that click-through rate by 0.5%. And every 0.5% is going to make a difference in the amount of people that you're converting through your email campaigns on your website and so forth. So don't neglect testing. You need to do it. You need to send out the best quality emails that you can possibly send, and testing is one way that you're going to be able to do that. Some more general email campaign guidelines for all of your emails. One would be you want to link everything. And we're going to look at examples of this, so I'm not going to get too in-depth here, but you want to link everything that it makes sense to link. You have great calls to action and need to be consistent. When you're consistent, people are going to start to expect that email, and when they expect it, when they get it, they're going to be more excited to open it. And so, as opposed to that once a year or once a quarter that there's no consistency to that really. Start sending monthly. People are going to start anticipating your email, looking forward to it, whatever specials you might have or what new great content you have to share with them. What we have seen in the data is that when we do it consistently, people don't see list fatigue. We don't see list fatigue like a lot of people will claim. We see increased open rates, increased click-through rates, and things like that. So yeah, those are just some more general campaign guidelines to write down, to take note of as we're looking through this. All right, so before we actually look at the email, that's going to be the next slide we look at. We want to look at our subject line. So the subject line can be argued might be the most important thing, most important aspect of your email campaign. Because you only have about 5 seconds, maybe even less than that. Maybe it's 3 seconds. Maybe it's even 1 second for some people. You have less than 5 seconds to make an impression and get people to open that email to begin with. So you need to spend a lot of time crafting really, really great subject lines. Because if no one opens your email, we did talk earlier about how being in the inbox is great and seeing your brand is great, and that accomplishes something. So don't hear me say that it's worthless, because it's not, because it does accomplish something just by sending and showing up and having your brand present. But if you want to get people to open that email, which is obviously more important than just getting people to see your name, you have to craft an amazing subject line. Some types of subject lines that work. The BuzzFeed social media culture has really given us this idea of this list. So the 7 best things, the 9 most amazing ways to enjoy, the 54 best restaurants here, whatever it might be. People are enthralled with lists. And so those lists work, provided you have that content in your email. You don't want to just have a list subject line or any subject line that doesn't correlate directly to what you're going to deliver in that email campaign. But if you have the content to write about, the 9 lists or the 9 best restaurants in San Diego or whatever it might be, use that. It's a great way to get a high open rate. Ask questions. Or use how-to, how to experience 3 days in wine country, how to make the most of your romantic getaway in the mountains, whatever it might be. Use questions, use how-tos. One of the tools that our content team uses as we're crafting subject lines is a great tool called CoSchedule, and they have what's called their headline analyzer. So you can Google that while we're here if you want to mess with that on the other end. Look at CoSchedule's headline analyzer, and it will practice some subject lines, and it will give you a score out of 100 to let you know how good that subject line is. We don't see subject lines get in the 80s too often. It certainly has happened, and I don't know that I've seen one in the 90s. So if you have a subject line in the 90s, email it to me. I'm very curious as to what you had to do to get a score in the 90s. But generally in the 70s is what we shoot for. 80s is great. 90s, again, that's not something I've seen. But this email that we're getting ready to look at, we're going to look at from top to bottom, the subject line for that email was 6 of the best restaurants in Hilton Head. And you can see the score there was 77 out of 100, and we're going to look at the data in terms of open rates and click-through rates that this email produced later on. But use that. Again, CoSchedule's Headline Analyzer. It's a free tool. We use it. We think it's great. You should use it too. It'll help you create really great subject lines, and you'll start to understand what people are really looking for, because not only will it give you a score, it'll tell you why you scored what you did, so why you only got a 40 instead of a 70. Why some of those words are bad words to use in subject lines, and why some are good. Why some are power words, why some are emotional words. What length of subject line is perfect. So go ahead, use that, experiment with that. Don't tune me out though. So I have faith that you can multitask as we're going to go through this. You can do some headline analysis as well as continue on through this journey with us as we're looking at this this email campaign. So we finally got to that point. So here we are. We'll start at the top. The biggest thing that you'll see here is that we want to make sure that our email campaigns are consistent with our brand, particularly the brand that we have from the website standpoint. So if you go to Beachside Getaway, they're in Hilton Head, their website's going to look very similar to this, and I would recommend the same for you. Very often when we're looking analyzing this for other folks, their email campaigns are just totally off base with what their brand is. And so I can't stress this enough, because as the first thing that people see is going to be your logo, your brand, a great image of your area, again, to provoke that emotional response. But when people then click on that, when they click on your logo, when they click on this image and they go to your website, they need to see the same brand. If not, it's going to be very confusing, provide a very low user experience. It's not best practice whatsoever. You want to keep things consistent. And so we want to have a great image header. We want to put your brand front and center. And as we look below, we're going to also have some calls to action. One of the ways that this particular one could be different, and I know a lot of your websites have this, would be to have kind of a check-in date bar, like a menu bar over this image, right? Where it says, what days do you want to come? And you get people to click on that. They're clicking on that thinking that it's going to be a drop down, but then it's going to send them right to your website so they can do that search in actuality on your website once they get there. So there's a few other things that could be there, but this was a great email campaign that performed for us. So one of the reasons why we're highlighting it here. But yeah, start at the top. Make sure you're branded correctly and consistently. Make sure you have a great image that's going to provoke that emotional response that we're looking for. As we slide down here, as we slide down the email campaign, the next part we're really going to see that call to action in action. So just below that image, we have this section right here where it's check out these Hilton Head vacation deals. We have one sentence to get straight to the point, and then we have this button that stands out right below that image. And what we feel and what we've seen work really well is that you want whatever your main purpose and your main goal for that particular email campaign is, you want that to show up as your call to action, knowing that the majority of people are going to click on what is the first thing that comes up. And so we've tested this. We want this call to action here. In this case, we want people checking out these Hilton Head vacation deals, knowing that we want to push for bookings at a particular time of the year. Again, we don't want to be overly verbose here. We don't want to have too much text. We want to be simple, we want to be clean, and we want to have a button that stands out so people will click on that button and get to our website and check out these vacation deals. So again, if we're going in order, we have the great brand and image up top, and then here we have this great call to action. Again, that button is linked, so going back to one of our main principles, link everything. In that first slide we looked at, the image and the logo were linked. In this, as we're looking here, this button is linked. Honestly, we probably could have and should have linked the specials and promotions headline right there. I don't know if we did. It doesn't look like it, but that's something that we could have linked as well and could have enhanced our click-through rate a little bit. Once we have that call to action, we get into more of the body of the email. And the way kind of our terminology is, this would be 3 content blocks. And so we typically stick around 3. Doesn't mean that you have to stay there. You can use 1, you can use 5. We've seen 3, again, just to work really well in terms of allowing us to provide a lot of different content that's featuring different things, knowing that the more links we have, the better chance we have to appeal to a greater audience. And so, if we had just 1 link, that's not going to interest everybody necessarily. So we want to have several different things to try to interact with the greatest amount of people that we can. And so you can see we've separated this as well. Again, there's more content here, but it's not just one big block of content. We've broken that up with images, we've broken that up with headlines, and we've broken that up with buttons. In addition to, we have each block separated with, with a very kind of a faint line, but certainly one that is visual enough to really make it stand out that, hey, these are 3 distinct things that we want you to be interacting with. Again, everything is linked. The headline is linked. That image is linked. The read more button is linked. So again, making sure that people have an opportunity to click on any sort of thing that they want to click on. Yeah, and the most important part of this process is probably the fact that, if you remember our subject line, six of the best restaurants in Hilton Head. Well, this is where we're giving people that exact information, that the headline has. So you don't want to bait and switch. What's called clickbait. You don't want to do that and have a subject line and then not deliver on what they're expecting to see. We've done that here. We told them in the subject line that they're going to get to read about the 6 best restaurants, and then we have delivered on that promise to them by providing them that opportunity to click on that here. Yeah, so again, if you have any questions on any of this as we're going, I know we're kind of going fast through each of these sections. Feel free to put a question in the chat panel. I know there's been a few questions already come in, so that's awesome, and we'll get to those at the end. But yeah, feel free to continue to put those questions there, and we'll do that for you. We'll re-answer those for you at the end. So moving on here. This is another huge part of what we're doing. And so we feel that regardless of where you are or what websites you advertise on or what websites are important for you to have reviews on, you need to be asking for reviews. One of the best ways you can do this, again, is to ask for this all the time in your email campaigns, knowing that people on your database, most of those people have stayed with you before, and probably the majority of those people didn't review you when they left. Here's the caveat. Don't just ask for reviews. Ask for a 5-star review. We highly recommend, you have to tell people what you want from them, and you want a 5-star review. On any of the sites that we go to, whether it be, a TripAdvisor, Google, bedandbreakfast.com, HomeAway, whatever third-party site that you are listed on, reviews are a part of that, and most likely you are somewhere in between a 4 and a 5. So when people, let's say people had a great time, but maybe they had one small complaint that didn't detract from their total experience. Let's say they have a small mishap, maybe things weren't as clean as they would have hoped for, so they give you a 4, and they think they're doing you a good service. In reality, they're doing you a disservice, because if you're ranked between a 4 and a 4 is going to lower your ranking. So you have to be very specific in asking for a 5-star review, planting that in their head, and knowing that we only want people reviewing us that are going to give us a 5-star review. We don't want 1, 2, 3, and certainly not 1 or 2 stars, and even the 3 and 4 stars aren't helping us. Our recommendation is to pick the site that is most important to you from a review standpoint, and then ask for just 1 review. And then once you have enough reviews, let's say on that website, then maybe start switching that out. So maybe switching from Google to TripAdvisor, or TripAdvisor to whoever else you might be listed on. But really just focusing on 1 at a given time, knowing that if we give people too many options in this case, they probably wouldn't do any of them. So we just want to be very direct here. And then with that, if you wanted to add more language to this or create a totally separate campaign for this, as we're asking for 5-star reviews, we know that some people aren't, right? Didn't have a 5-star experience. Some people are upset. You can't please everybody all the time, and there are going to be those people who give poor reviews. But the way that we would message that would be, if you feel like you didn't have a 5-star review, give me a call. Call us and let us know how we can help you have a 5-star experience the next time you come and stay with us, and let us know what we can do better. That way we are dissuading them from actually going and reviewing, and we're helping provide a solution for the next time they come, and we're willing to get on the phone with them and have that conversation. So again, it's a huge part. We could do a whole webinar just on a review strategy that we've seen work really well, but you need to be asking for reviews, and you need to be asking specifically for the 5-star reviews. Then the last part of our email down here again is in our email footer, and you're going to see a lot of the same things in an email footer that you do kind of at the bottom of your website. So, contact information, location, links back to your website. Again, we want to link everything, right? So we want to link people back to the home page, back to our properties or our rooms, accommodations page, our contact us page. We want to lead people there as well as we can. The other thing that you have to do, and again, this is by law, so don't just hear me saying it, but understand, hey, this is the right thing to do by law, is you have to have the option to unsubscribe. So if you are by chance sending out email campaigns just through your Outlook or your Gmail, stop doing that immediately, because that'll get your email address flagged, and partner with an email marketing software or a company who does this for you, who has software that will implement that unsubscribe button no matter what. It's part of any email marketing software these days is going to have that opportunity, so you have to make sure it's there, because you have to, by law, again, have that ability for people to unsubscribe at any point. I say that, and I also, again, want to reiterate, do not be paralyzed in sending with the thought that you might have people unsubscribe. You will have people unsubscribe every single time, no matter what. Don't worry about it. Obviously, you don't want that unsubscribe rate to be high, but unsubscribe rates are typically like 0.05%. It is unbelievably low, 0.1% maybe. So the unsubscribe rate is really, really low versus you're going to get 4, 5, 6% of your website, of your database to your website every time you send. The positives far outweigh the negatives in terms of if we look at traffic versus unsubscribes, it's always going to be favored in traffic. Again, provided you're following a format similar to what we've laid out here, one that's going to provide great results for you. So let's talk about those results and what you should expect. MailChimp is updating this information on a monthly or every other month basis. So the last time we looked at this was a few months ago, and MailChimp said that the travel and transportation companies are getting a 20.71% open rate and a 2.31% click-through rate. And we measure click-through rate, and the way that MailChimp does in this study as well is it's clicks divided by the total amount sent. So I'll have people tell me, oh, I'm getting a 30% click-through rate. And my first thought is, well, no, you're not. You might be getting a 30% or a 20% click to open ratio, but that's a totally different metric. So the click-through rate is measured total clicks divided by the total amount of emails that you've sent out. But we want you to raise the bar for yourself and not just be limited to or trying to attain what MailChimp says is the average for travel and transportation. We want you to do better than that. What we strive for and what we want you to strive for is at least a 30 to 35% open rate on average. Obviously, some might be a little lower than that and some might be higher than that, which is why you have to test, but that's the goal you need to set for yourself. So don't settle for 20%, 21%. Don't stop until you can get to that 30, 35%. And we know what's possible. We're sending out between 1 million and 1.5 million emails a month probably, and we know that this is an attainable goal for you, regardless of kind of where you are and where you're starting from. From a click-through rate, again, you see MailChimp's number 2.3. We say strive for 4 to 5 and keep going if you can. Again, these are what we strive for, but this isn't where we stop and we say, hey, we've gotten 4 to 5%, great, we're just going to do this forever. We want to keep pushing that envelope and say, how can we get to 5.5%? How can we get to 7%? And so we would urge you to do the same. Continue to test. Don't rest on one successful email campaign and say, okay, well, I'm good, I've done my job, we got 5%, and we're just going to do this all the time. Continue to test, continue to push the envelope, and you're going to be better off for that. This email campaign we just looked at for Beachside Getaways, this email campaign received a 42.25% open rate. So again, we outdid what we strive for on that particular one, and the click-through rate was outrageously good, almost 16%, which is 4 times what our goal is. Obviously, it's a bit of an outlier, but I wanted to show you all an email campaign that performed really well. If you think that you can do 43% and or 42% and 16% click-through rate all the time, my goodness, more power to you. It is hard, but it's possible, and we can have campaigns that achieve these types of results. To give you a little bit of perspective on where they are, their average open rate, so this is just for their email campaigns, not for all of our customers, but just for Beachside Getaways at this time, was 30.05%, so that email did much better than normal. And their click-through rate does start a little bit higher. So our average customer, 4 to 5. This particular customer, their average is almost 8%. And so we were able to almost double that click-through rate on that particular email. But again, the subject line was great, and the content within that email performed really, really well. So hopefully, this gives you a baseline of what MailChimp says is acceptable, what we feel like as an industry, when we have more personal businesses, we interact with our guests a little more. We're not necessarily chains. We're not massive, the airlines, which would fall in the transportation part of it. We're not OTAs, right? We have our own brands, our own businesses, and because of that, we think that you should be striving for a much higher open rate and click-through rate because of that. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to take the next steps, and how can you do that? One of the things that we always try to leave you with is we don't want you to leave here with just a bunch of great information and then not do anything about it. So we want to offer you an opportunity to take the next step and request a free email marketing analysis. The way this works is I'm gonna put up a poll right now. You can say yes, you want to do the analysis, no you don't, or you'd like to know more about who we are as a company, how we might be able to help at Q4 Launch. So I'm going to put that up right now, and feel free to select whatever it is. You want it, you don't want it, or you want to know more about who we are and what we do, great. But that's up there right now. What will happen is either myself or another member of our team will then reach out to you. We'll schedule a time just for 30 minutes. We can do it really quickly as to not take up a ton of your day. And we'll go through. We'll ask you to send us maybe an email campaign or two, some of your most recent email campaigns, so we can really take a look at what you're doing from an email standpoint, give you some advice on what's working well, what might not be working as well, and just help you through that. Our goal in this is just to help you send out better email campaigns. And so this 30 minutes, this 30-minute email marketing analysis, again, completely free, costs you 30 minutes of your time, and then either myself or another one of the email marketing experts on our team will walk you through your specific email campaigns, give you some advice, really help you out, and hopefully, allow you to start sending better emails. So we're going to keep this up for about 30 more seconds. You all can continue to vote if you haven't done so yet. About half of you have so far. Thank you for doing that. Again, you can on this particular poll, you can fill out multiple answers. So we'll keep it up again, 20, 30 more seconds, and then we'll get to the question and answer period. So if you have questions, now's the time to submit them. And we'll spend the next 10, 15 minutes going through those questions before we wrap up today's webinar. Alrighty, that brief pause and silence also allowed me to get a drink of water, which I'm grateful for. So let me close this poll up. Thank you to all of you who filled that out, and we'll be sure to follow up in whatever way is appropriate based on how you responded to that question. And we should be back to the presentation now. Yeah, so you have questions, we have answers. Again, if I don't get to your question today for whatever reason, or if something else comes up and you have a question after we're done today, there's my email address, there's my phone number. Feel free to reach out to me in any way that is best for you. And we have several questions already in the queue here, so we're going to get started, and we'll start answering some of these questions. So all right, so what subject line was used to let guests know about the sudden availability for the upcoming weekend when the retreat was canceled? That's a great question, Beth. I can actually go back and look that specific campaign up. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know it'd be messaged around something like this. Hey, last minute availability, we were offering our rooms for $150 a night, knowing that customer was more of a $190 to $225 a night type of customer. So it's a pretty significant discount. The other thing that we wanted to make sure that we messaged in that, so that would be, that's the subject line. Great discount at this particular property, but it's only available through this weekend, act now. Something to that effect. Then the message within that was very clear that, hey, we're not just open because people are interested in us. Hey, we were 100% booked. This totally out of the nowhere, out of the blue situation came up that caused us to go from 100 to 0. And so as a result, we want to offer you all, people who've stayed with us in the past, the opportunity to come and experience this at a highly discounted rate. So I think the fact that we were very upfront and honest in the messaging as well helped us book those rooms. And at the end of the day, I think people empathize with that, right? Oh my gosh, like they're losing out on whatever their revenue is, a 16 a 16-unit property at, you know, $220 a night, and now they've gone, you know, from that to zero, and we have an opportunity to get to experience this getaway at a steep discount. You know, count us in. We want to do that. So I have to look and see exactly what that subject line is. Beth, if you want to follow up with me via email, I can. That'll help me remember, and I can go back and look and see exactly what that email said and send it to you. And probably be a good idea to maybe to send out to everybody who's been in attendance today too. All right, next question from Hannah. Which platform do you use to create your email campaigns? And asked if we use MailChimp. Great question. So we have used MailChimp, and we've used it several times in the past for many of our customers. We use a software called GetResponse. It's GETRESPONSE. So GetResponse. We use that, you know, 99% of the time. We have an enterprise account with them, so we have kind of our services white labeled there, and it's all kind of under our name because we're sending out so many emails. And I'll tell you the reason why we went with GetResponse is that we felt that the testing functionality and robustness, if that's even a word, was just greater. And so we're able to test a lot more in that than we are in some of the other email softwares. MailChimp is great. It's easy to use. Honestly, you know, we love it. I really don't have anything bad to say about MailChimp. It's a really great software. Others that I would say if you're on a budget and you want to use, you know, Constant Contact is one that a lot of folks use, but it's not one that we've ever used, and we don't plan on using it. I would say GetResponse and MailChimp are probably the best two on that. So. From Alexis, I would love to see a webinar on building positive reviews. Yeah, Alexis, feel free, send me an email. I can before, you know, putting together everything in a webinar, I can probably answer some of your questions specifically if you have them. So send me an email. Again, it's right there on the screen, and we can maybe talk through that and have a dialogue about how to build positive reviews. All right, let's see. Next question from Candace. Can you discuss mobile views that you have seen historically on your clients' emails compared to desktop? Yeah, I can talk to that. So the other nice thing, and this kind of goes back 2 questions ago when we're talking about what email marketing software we're using, but as we're designing emails, the software allows us to see exactly what those emails are going to look like on a variety of different platforms, whether it be, you know, a 19-inch desktop monitor or, you know, a 3-inch iPhone screen. So you want to make sure that however you're designing your emails, they're being designed in a responsive format, so that the emails are going to show up well regardless of how people are viewing them. You know, there are some email platforms that email clients, so like a Gmail or an Outlook or something like that, that aren't cooperating very well with email marketing softwares and aren't allowing you to see some of those emails in a great format, and that's their decision. If you're on one of those that you're constantly seeing bad emails, I would recommend maybe updating to just a different email host. But to get to your question about the mobile views though, all traffic sources for mobile are increasing, including email marketing campaigns. You know, the majority of people are opening, or a lot of people are, probably the majority of people are opening their emails on phones now. They're at least taking their first scan through their phone and deciding whether or not it's going to be a worthwhile email for them to keep around till they get on their desktop or to just scroll through right then and there. But generally speaking, this is the first year in our customers' data that we've seen mobile and tablet traffic combined surpass that of desktop. Up until this year, desktop traffic has continued to be above 50%. But this year, it's actually down. Desktop traffic is at 48%. This is for our customers, so real customer data across all of our customers. Desktop traffic's at 48%. Mobile and tablet combined is about 52%. The biggest jump, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anybody, you know, here today, the biggest jump has been desktop decreasing and mobile phone traffic increasing. 2 years ago, desktop traffic was still at 60%. 2014 data for our customers, 60%. Now that's down to 48%. You can see that jump. All that jump has taken place in mobile traffic. So and tablet traffic has remained relatively static. I think it's actually dropped by 1%, but generally speaking, yeah, it's the mobile traffic has shot up by about 10 or 11%. Desktop traffic is down by 10 or 11%, 12%, and tablet traffic has stayed the same in the last couple of years. So, and that's true for email, mobile views, and any kind of website views, regardless of what source it's coming from. So yeah, great question, and I think that's the trend we're going to continue to see, which means not only your website has to look great, your email software has to produce responsive emails, and your booking engine, your property management software has to be mobile friendly and responsive as well. We still see a lot of folks who are using some archaic softwares in that regard, and so when people, you might get to, might be a great website, but when they're going to make that final booking, it's very hard, it's not user-friendly, and people are leaving at that stage in the booking process, which is unfortunate because you've done so much work to get them to that point. Not having a mobile-friendly booking option, you're tying your hands behind your back. You're really hindering the success that you can have. So, yeah, it looks like we have maybe a question or two left, or maybe we've gone through them, but we'll stay on here for another few minutes if anybody has any questions. Again, thanks for coming out today. We really appreciate you, coming out, and if you're in the Florida area, the Carolinas, again, my wife and I'll be praying for the safety of everybody in those areas, of your properties, that hopefully we won't be as affected as what some of the forecasts are saying right now. And again, we can continue business as usual after the storm has passed through. So that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're asking for, and we'll see what happens. But be safe if you're in one of those areas. If not, reach out to those who are and help them in any way you can, even if it's just to chat with and see how they're doing. So I think that's all the questions that we do have. No others have come in the last few minutes. Again, thanks. Here's to sending better emails. Again, if you want that email marketing evaluation that we talked about before and you didn't click yes on that poll, send me an email. Again, Steven@Q4Launch.com. Give me a call, send me a text. Be glad to talk to you, and we'll get that email marketing evaluation your way as quickly as we can. So have a great day. Be safe in the weather, and we'll see you the next time we're teaching a webinar here at Q4 Launch. Talk to you soon.